أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum dear students. This is Tariq Amin, lecturer Department of English, Kuwait University of Science and Technology, Kuwait. Warm welcome to the course of Functional English. This is video number 1 of the lecture number 21. Today's topic is active voice and passive voice. Lecture outlines of today's class include: first of all, we will discuss what is voice. After that, we will discuss active voice, then passive voice, and then rules of conversion from active voice to passive voice. Let's discuss what is voice. Okay, voice is that form of a verb. It is a form of verb which shows whether what is denoted by the subject does something or has something done to it. So voice is that form of verb which tells us that, or which indicates that what is denoted by the subject. Okay, what does it mean, what is denoted by the subject? What is denoted by the subject means that the subject of a sentence. For example, if the subject of a sentence is Zahid, it means that Zahid is denoted by the subject. So it shows whether what is denoted by the subject does something or has something done to it. So it tells us two things. It shows us two things. For example, Zahid plays cricket. Zahid plays cricket. In this sentence, Zahid is subject, plays, Zahid is subject, plays is verb, and cricket is object. So in the definition, we say that voice is that form of a verb which shows whether what is denoted by the subject does something or has something done to it. First of all, let's see what is denoted by the subject in this example. So subject denotes Zahid. Zahid is the subject of this sentence, subject in this sentence, and it is the subject of the verb plays. And the form of the verb play is a verb, and the form of the verb play, which is placed over here, shows that the subject of the verb plays does something. It is the doer of the action. It is agent. It is doing something. And what does Zahid do? Zahid is playing cricket. Zahid plays cricket. So Zahid is doing something. Zahid is the doer of the action. And let's discuss another example. The example number 2 is cricket is played by Zahid. In this example, cricket is a subject, played is verb, and Zahid is object in this example. Example number 2. Let's check the second part of this, the definition of voice, or has something done to it. The second part of the definition applies over here in the second example, that cricket is played by Zahid. Cricket, in this example, cricket is the subject of the sentence, subject of the verb played. And over here in this example, subject of the verb played does not do something. It is not the doer of the action. Rather, something has been done to it. Okay, in sentence 1, sentence number 1, the subject does something. In sentence 1, subject does something. What is the subject of the first sentence? Zahid is doing something. Zahid does something. Zahid is the subject in the first example in the sentence number 1. So Zahid does something. The form of the verb in this sentence is in the active. So the form of the verb is in the active because the form of the verb shows that Zahid, the form of the verb shows that its subject is the doer of the action. In sentence number 2, something is done to the subject. Cricket is the subject in the example number 2, in the sentence number 2, and something is done to the subject. And what is the subject in the example number 2? Cricket is subject. Something is done to cricket. In other words, we can say that something is done to cricket. Okay, the form of the verb in this sentence is passive, or in the passive voice, because the form of the verb play shows that something is done to its subject. Okay, active voice and passive voice. The active voice and the active and passive forms of verbs are referred to as active voice and passive voice. This is clear from the previous slide that what are active form of verbs and what are passive form of verbs. And the active form of verb is referred to as active voice and the passive form of verb is referred to as passive voice. Compare Rama helps Hari. Rama helps Hari. Rama is subject, helps is verb, and Hari is object. And let's write another example. Hari is helped by Rama. In this example, Hari is subject, helped is verb, and Rama is object. Okay, we can see that these two sentences express the same meaning. Both of these sentences express the same meaning, but their structures are a bit different. The first one is in the active voice and the second one is in the passive voice. But in sentence 1, the form of the verb shows that the person denoted by the subject does something. In the sentence 1, the form of the verb, which is helps, shows that the person denoted by the subject. And who is the person denoted by the subject? Rama is the person that is denoted by the subject. So the form of the verb help, the verb which is help, shows that the person denoted by the subject, which is Rama, does something. So in sentence 1, helps, the form of the verb which is helps shows that Rama does something. Okay, this is the example. Rama is subject, helps is verb, Hari is object. So helps tells us that it shows that Rama, which is the subject of the verb helps, does something. It is the doer of the action. Okay, Rama is the person. Rama is actually the person that is denoted by the subject. Rama does something. Okay, the verb helps is said to be in the active voice. And sentence 2, the form of the verb shows that something is done to the person denoted by the subject. Let's see the example. Hari is helped by Rama. So this was the second example in the previous slide, that Hari is subject, helped is verb, and Rama is object. In this example, the form of the verb which is helped. Helped is the form of the verb play. The form of the verb shows that something is done to the person denoted by the subject. Hari is the person that is denoted by the subject. Hari is the person that is denoted by the subject. So the form of the verb which is helped shows that something is done to Hari. Something is done to Hari. We have discussed the same thing. Okay, the verb helped is said to be in the passive voice. And the passive form of verb is said to be in the passive voice, and the active form of verb is said to be in the active voice. In this example number 2, helped is the passive form of the verb, and that is why it is said to be in the passive voice, whereas in the example number 1, helped is the active form of verb, that is why it is said to be in the active voice. Okay, a verb is in the active voice when its form shows, as in sentence 1, that the person or thing denoted by the subject does something, or in other words, is the doer of the action. So we have discussed this point, and we have discussed it with example that a verb is in the active voice when its form shows that the person or the thing denoted by the subject does something, or in other words, the person or the thing denoted by the subject is the doer of the action. Okay, the active voice is so called because the person denoted by the subject acts. A verb is in the passive voice. A verb is in the passive voice when its form shows, as in the sentence 2, that something is done to the person or thing denoted by the subject. If the form of a verb shows that something that is denoted by something that is denoted by the subject is affected by an action, it is said to be in the passive voice. The passive voice is so called because the person or thing denoted by the subject is not active but passive. The person that is denoted by the subject, the other person or thing that is denoted by the subject is not active but passive. That is, it suffers or receives some action. Okay, now there are some rules of conversion from active voice to passive voice. The very first rule is identify the subject, the verb, and the object. That is SVO. First of all, you need to identify the subject of a sentence, the verb of a sentence, and the object of a sentence. The very first step is this. If you want to convert a sentence in active voice into passive voice. And the second step is change the object into subject. You need to change the object of the sentence into subject. And then put the suitable helping verb or auxiliary verb. After the subject, you need to put suitable helping verb or auxiliary verb. If the subject is singular, you need to put singular verb. If the subject is plural, you need to put plural verb. Okay, change the verb into past participle form of the verb. Past participle form of the verb. We will discuss what are past participle forms of verbs. Okay, add the preposition by. After the verb, after the past participle form of the verb, we need to put by. We need to put the preposition by. And the very last one is change the subject into object. The subject must be changed into object. These are 6 steps. Let's apply these tips to an example. Okay, this is an example. Samir wrote a letter. Samir is subject, wrote is verb, a letter is the object. And the passive voice is a letter was written by Samir. A letter is subject, was written is verb. So written was is auxiliary verb, written is verb, by its preposition. Samir is the object. Okay, let's apply the rule that we have discussed in the previous slide. That first of all, you need to apply, to identify subject, verb, and object. So in this example, Samir is subject, wrote is verb, and a letter is object. And the second step was you need to change object into subject. A letter over here is the object in this example, so we need to change it into subject, object into subject. So a letter, this is, we have changed object into subject. After that, you need to put appropriate auxiliary verb or helping verb. So a letter is singular, we need to put is a letter, we need to put was, because it is in the past tense, it is in past tense. A letter was. This was the third step. After that, after putting the helping verb or appropriate auxiliary verb, you need to put the past participle form of the verb. Wrote is the second form of verb, past form of the verb. The past participle would be written. A letter was written. This is the past participle form of the verb write. Okay, a letter was written. But after that, after the past participle form of the verb, we need to put preposition by. A letter was written by. And the very last step is change object into subject. A letter was written by Samir. Samir is subject. We need to change it into object, and this is by Samir. Okay, I've written the same sentence, but I've applied these 6 steps. A letter is subject, was is helping verb, written is the past participle form of the verb write, by is preposition, Samir is object in this sentence, but in the active voice Samir was subject, whereas a letter was object in the first example, whereas in the passive voice it is the subject of the verb written. Okay, this is the structure of passive voice and this is the structure of active voice. Okay, so in today's class we discussed what is voice, what is active voice, what is passive voice, and after that we discussed some of the examples of some of the rules for the conversion of from active voice to passive voice. Conversion of active voice to passive voice. Okay, this is the exam reference. This is the just one reference. High School English Grammar by Renan Matter. You can consult this book for further study. Thank you very much for listening to the video. Allah Hafiz.